Good evening and thanks for joining us for tonight's edition of Good Question. My name is Travis Coffman. I'll be your host tonight as we talk about a storm that became a typhoon and then a super typhoon. Residents of Guam were watching as it formed. It went to the south of Guam. We stopped worrying about it, but there was a lot to worry about as it grew into Typhoon Haiyan and then into Super Typhoon Haiyan. It headed to the Philippines, where it became known as Super Typhoon Yolanda, and it wreaked more devastation on the central Philippines that has been seen in most of our lifetimes. It may have been the strongest storm to ever reach land in the Philippines. Devastation, initial reports, tens, possibly thousands of people dead. How can you even begin to react to a situation that sounds so difficult, so horrible, so horrifying? Tonight, from the Filipino community of Guam, Mr. Roy Adonay joins us along with the acting governor, Ray Tenorio. Tonight, these gentlemen will chat with you, with me, about the devastating effects of the storm. They'll chat with us about what you can do to help. This is Good Question. My name is Travis Coffman. We'll be back after these.
Fox 6 takes Guam's #1 rated news and talk radio station, News Talk K57 to TV. Watch Fox 6 every weekday as our PNC cameras feature the live in-studio environment of The Breakfast Show with Ray Gibson, Patty Arroyo on the radio, and The Big Show with Travis Coffman on News Talk K57. Enjoy an entertaining televised look at Guam's most popular talk shows. Tune in to Fox 6 every Monday through Friday from 6 to noon, and then again from 4 to 6 to see what's on the radio.
Help make a difference in our community and join the fight against crime. Tune in to PNC News every Wednesday night at 6 on ABC 7 and on Fox 6 at 7 p.m. for the Guam Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week. Each week, the Guam Police Department will highlight an unsolved crime, hoping you may have information relating to the case. Join Crime Stoppers Coordinator Officer Paul Tapao every Wednesday night on PNC News for the Guam Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Good Question. My name is Travis Coffman. I'm your host. I'm here with Roy Adonay of the Filipino community of Guam, along with the acting governor of Guam, Ray Tenorio. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. I appreciate it. There's a lot to talk about. We've had a horrible storm, a horrible typhoon that's taken place earlier this month. People on Guam are digging deep, wanting to help, but they want to know more about how to help. Let's start with you, Roy. Let's talk a little bit about when you first heard that Typhoon Haiyan was headed for the Philippines and what happened after that.
Well, one of the things that we Filipinos always keep an eye on are all the storms. We know that the Philippines is a very welcoming country and we welcome visitors, and unfortunately, typhoon also comes with it. I was really worried about the storm because it was hitting the areas where actually I was born and my family, and in fact 3 of our homes were actually destroyed in this particular storm. So while I was monitoring the CNN news and many other news media, it actually really got me worried, and then started making phone calls to my family members in that particular region, and they were saying that they were actually making some preparation, and that the president of the Philippines ended up like declaring a state of emergency in that particular area, wherein that they need to actually prepare for this upcoming typhoon. The first response that we have here in Guam is that we ended up actually gathering together, and we said that what can we do right away, even before the storm hit the islands. They were actually mentioned several times. We actually organized first and foremost a prayer mass that occurred Friday. It's actually on the day before the storm really hit those islands, and we prayed that for the safety and well-being of our brothers and sisters in there.
Well, I'm awfully sympathetic about your concerns about your family, and I know that there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that feel the same way. If I might ask, were you able to contact members of your family?
Well, that was also the very difficult situation because I tried my best by around 2 o'clock Friday night. There were no communication in those specific areas. I could not get a hold of anybody via landline, via internet, via textings, and it really got me worried. And in fact, after the storm on Sunday already, even on Saturday night, we've actually asked from nearby provinces, relatives from the province of Negros, to actually drive to those provinces, and they told me that after just driving towards there 30 minutes later, they have to turn back because the roads were they could not actually reach the designated areas. One thing that was also quite sad about that one is that they ended up seeing those individuals that were actually damaged by the most recent earthquake in there, ended up actually being deluged by the rain and by the wind, and the grounds were even shaking because of the aftershock on that one. So I could not just imagine the emotions that were running through those people having to deal with the cold rain, the strong wind, and the earth moving. People were saying that, like, is this the end of the world?
And that is perfectly understandable. And so you, along with many people, are still waiting for communication.
Yes, and thankfully that after the communication had been restored with the American Red Cross, the family tracing in there, they were able to actually connect many of our people in there. And I'd also like to thank Facebook. There are people over there. What they did is that when they had already signal, they were starting to take photographs on people, putting their names, putting them in Facebook, and getting it to everybody. That's when I actually first found out through Facebook that our first home actually there was actually destroyed.
I'm sorry to hear it, and you are among thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be looking to figure out how to recover. I keep hearing again and again that people say they were ready for typhoon force winds, but they weren't ready for the water. That there was more water than anybody had ever seen in many areas of the Philippines, particularly beginning Friday morning as the typhoon made landfall in eastern Samoa.
Yeah, for people who probably don't realize that one, Philippines is composed of 7,100 islands. So almost like all the communities are actually situated near the beach area, and time and time again the water would probably come in a few inches, but this time around the water was actually drowning the homes, the cars, and even the second floor of homes were actually reached. So people didn't have any places to actually go to actually save themselves.
If you're just joining us, Roy Adonay, the Filipino community of Guam, is with us chatting about the early moments after he learned that the typhoon was headed for the Philippines, and his attempts to get a hold of his family, the early devastation, the information he's asking from people in his community. Acting Governor Ray Tenorio is with us. You've heard the same story, many of these same stories. This has generated a huge reaction here on Guam, and people want to know how they can help.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of people call, business people, local government employees, people just who have been living in this community. The Filipino community and the Filipinos are proud people and very resilient. They've always bounced back from major catastrophes in the past, and as the people of Guam have. But the Filipinos have touched every village and every business and every government agency of this island, and I think this community is really reeling from this experience. Nobody wants to see their homes devastated, and Guam has seen that as well. And when we see that, we can definitely sympathize because we've lived through it. And so when people want to help, Roy Adonay and the American Red Cross, the government of Guam, have all stepped up to say, we'll be a conduit for that assistance. Cash is the best way to get assistance to people, frankly. Checks, any monetary donation going to the Filipino community translate into immediate assistance and the possibility of multiplying the investment through many of the partners and networks that the community has here on the island.
Good. Well, I wanted to get to that question. People are used to the American Red Cross and other organizations helping out here on Guam. Who is the main organization that helps out in the Philippines? They want to give money to you, and they want to make sure that the money goes to help the people that are in need.
That's a very good question about it. You know, there are many areas, so there are actually many needs in there, and then no one entity could actually provide all that is needed in there. There's a need for clothing, there's a need for food, there's a need for water, for shelter, for medical stuff on that one. Here in Guam, we actually, the Filipino community of Guam, deliberated on this issue, and we asked, where can we actually help? It would actually cost prohibitive for us to be shipping containers of water to those particular area. We don't know those particular area. So we've actually concentrated on more long-term help to those affected. Many of those people were actually dealing with medical conditions that is not currently being addressed. So the Filipino community of Guam decided, let's concentrate on the medical needs of the community, and that we have actually aligned ourselves with the Ajuda Foundation and MedShare in the state, wherein our donation could actually be converted into a much greater donation. In the past, we have helped with Typhoon Yolanda. We have actually provided $25,000 for a container worth of goods, and Ajuda Foundation actually converted into $1.2 million worth of medical supply,
really?
Medicine, and medical equipment. And that's a system that we actually used in the past, and we're actually sticking to that one, and that's where all the donation. And the nice thing about this one, wTravis, is that rather than figuring out the need of that community would actually they're going to get a listing of all possible medication, medical supply, and medical equipment, and they themselves on that selected place. So we selected the province of Tacloban to begin with. That Tacloban, their biggest hospital, make a selection and what those medication, medical equipment, medical supplies that they need, and those are the things that's actually being sent by the Ajuda Foundation through MedShare. So the 25,000 donation that we have converted into minimally to $500,000 to $1.2 million. There's a multiplying effect, and we really, really appreciate that they never stop assisting us over here.
Yeah, it sounds like you've learned a lot through your past efforts to help out. Because money's tight everywhere. The people of Guam are as generous as they are any place else in the planet, but people are concerned about where their money goes. So to restate, the money that's donated is going to go through either the governor's efforts to the Filipino community of Guam, and those will go to medical type assistance through the assistance of the Ajuda Foundation.
Yes, definitely about that one. And 100%, every single penny that is actually be donated is actually going to go to this effort. There's no administrative fee, there's no this fee, there's no tax, and what have you. And we also partnered with organizations in the Philippines, wherein because the goods will actually arrive in the port of Manila, but from the port of Manila, it still takes a long time to actually get to the other place, and then many expenses in that one. There's also an entity in the Philippines that said, if you send that, we'll send it to this proper place. So we've actually been very elated with the work with the governor's office and many other organizations that we've actually, as of today, we've actually committed 4 containers. So that could range from like a donation of $2 million to $4.8 million.
Rory Adonay from the Filipino community of Guam, the Lieutenant Governor of Guam, acting governor, have joined us here on Good Question to talk about how you can help. And you may have seen many people out at the intersections on Friday gathering money in a boot drive. Are you wondering where that money is going? It is going ultimately to medical supplies, and we will talk more about the long-term needs of the Philippines and where the people of Guam can make the biggest impact right after we take this quick time out. You're listening to Good Question. My name is Travis Coffman. We'll be back with more right after these.
Burn up the bandwidth. Guam's hottest talk comes to your smartphone with News Talk K57's streaming apps. The latest in news, weather, and talk in the palm of your hand. Plus, exclusive features let you talk back to us via email. Visit our webpage and see breaking news on PNC's Twitter page. Smartphone users can now download the free app, which will stream all day, every day, and anywhere. Look in your platform's app store for K57 and download it today.
Good evening and welcome back to Good Question. You've been watching, wondering where you can address your checks. You can make them out to the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort. And if you make them out to the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort and get them to virtually anyone in the administration. They will make sure that the Filipino community of Guam get that money to help with the medical effort. And they've actually spent some time. Roy Adonay of the Filipino community of Guam was telling me during the break that you've learned a lot in past relief efforts. Typhoons are not exactly strangers to this part of the world. The Philippines gets generally 24, something like that a year. We certainly have many come through our area. And you don't want to go on your own trying to help out, in that your best efforts could get sidetracked, yes?
Quite true. You know, many people, I would just say that the people of Guam would always open up their heart and their purses and their pockets to all these relief efforts, not only here in Guam. We've proven that with what had happened in our brothers and sisters in Micronesia and also in Japan. And so, but now again, it happened again in the Philippines, and people here are not tired of helping. And we would just like to say that if we actually work together, concentrate that effort over here, we can certainly see a multiplying effect on the efforts that we have. So we're not stating that we're the only entity that can actually help. Like I said earlier, that there are many needs, and no one particular organization could address all those needs. But if we actually put our efforts together over here, we can really see a much bigger impact of our particular donation. One of which is that many people had said, what are we doing now? Okay, yes, it's good about that we're going to be sending goods and what have you in that one. Well, together with the Guam Medical Association, the Filipino Community Guam, and our partners, of course, the Governor's Office, the Philippine Consulate Office, and the Judah Foundation, has actually asked volunteers, medical personnel, nurses, doctors, so we retired nurses are actually good examples of people who responded and said, yes, I'd like to go to the Philippines and be able to help with those particular efforts. Our responsibility now is to, like, when we send soldiers to any war, we arm those soldiers. So we basically provide them with the necessary items that they need in order to help those people in there. Medication, medical supplies, medical equipment. So those things are actually going to be reaching the Philippines this week, and there's actually no delay in that one. We'd like to just thank Dr. Thomas Shea, the president of Guam Medical Association, Dr. Vince Akimoto, and Dr. Hua Huen of American Medical Clinic for spearheading this effort.
And the Guam Medical Association was among the first associations to extend both their offer for assistance and reach deep into their pocketbooks to help out. Now, your opportunity to reach deep is coming up Friday, November 22nd. There's going to be the second boot drive, and you can give cash to the people that are, will they be collecting at the ITC intersections, Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, we have several different people and organizations. Most of the government will be out there asking people to assist. And, you know, if it could be a quarter or $1, $5, whatever people were willing to donate. Actually, we've been very surprised, because we've been circulating, you know, papers through the government asking employees, classified and unclassified, line agencies or autonomous, to donate, and they've been really very generous. I think a lot of people feel that this is what they would want to do if it were their family. Try to donate as much as they can within their means to try to make a difference. So at the intersections of Micronesia Mall, as we've seen last week, we're going to continue to see people, you know, asking for donations. And if you can, you know, chip in, you know, some coins that are in your ashtray, or, you know, $1 in your wallet won't hurt you, but it will help somebody else in the Philippines.
Acting Governor Ray Tenorio is with us, along with Roy Adonay, and we're talking about the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort. And if you want to write a check, if you've got more than a few coins that you want to contribute, you can make it simply out to the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort, and those checks will ultimately make their way to the Filipino community of Guam. Now, there are some folks that are thinking, well, aren't they going to need food? Aren't they not going to need clothing? Aren't they going to need water? When do you think that will happen? But you're not collecting that now. I want to emphasize that you're needing cash right now, because that can have the most immediate impact. But down the road, do you think we'll still be able to help?
I absolutely think so. One of the things, problems dealing with any country, is that things come into their ports, whether it's for relief efforts or otherwise. There's some tax and customs issues that sometimes impede the process. And I know Roy is as the Filipino community of Guam and many of his people in the organization are working directly with the highest levels of government to ensure that there won't be any interruption in the flow of these things from Guam or frankly any other place as much as possible. We want to make sure that if people want to give their old blankets or other things, food or water, that these go as fast as they can, because if you're in the position where you don't have a bed or you don't have clothes or food and medicines, you don't want there to be any interruption. But we do want to work with the partners that we have, and I think Filipino community at Guam has been as forward as they can be. And I think as we progress in the next week or two, we're going to see that there are going to be locations through the media that we'll be asking you to announce, so people know where you can drop their canned foods or their other things, and then they'll, I think, segregate them in a way so, okay, this is your food container, this is your water container, this is your clothing container or cots or futons. I think all of that will go a long way.
I think over time it makes a lot of sense. In the short term, the cash makes the most sense. One of the early concerns expressed by you, Roy, is trying to get in touch with the people in the Philippines. There's 7,000 islands, very difficult winds, typhoon, flood, everything that could possibly happen, earthquake taking place at the same time. Acting Governor, when this kind of thing happens, who do you turn to say, we need to get communication with this part of the world?
Well, there's a lot of telecommunications companies, of course. There's a lot of conduits like Chita Blaze was mentioning today. They're doing their family tracing system, and it's been very effective, because if you've got an auntie or your mom or your kid is over there and you want to be able to know, are they okay? I mean, we don't want to see any ill fall to anyone, but if someone did, suffer from this tragedy, we want to get there for them. If there's a funeral, we want to know when it's happening. We want to try to make sure that we are able to help the people who have been injured in the process. And so the Red Cross has been fantastic. They always are. They're such a great champion of humanitarian causes, and they're really doing a lot to try to help out. And of course, the Filipino community, as Roy has indicated, is using Facebook, which is modern social networking, coming to the rescue. It's fantastic to know that maybe Twitter might be able to be another conduit for people to figure out, by the way, Roy, I saw your auntie, she's okay, she's at this clinic, or she's at this house, and by the way, this is their phone number. That kind of stuff will be really helpful in facilitating communication. So, people like Roy, whose families lost 3 homes in the Philippines as a result of this storm, can know that the people who are living those homes are safe, or if something happened, that they can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, it makes all the sense in the world, as in this part of the world really learned how to text basically based on their friends from the Philippines who learned how to do it first.
Oh, right.
And so if there's any experts in social media and texting and getting the word out with whatever resources available, it would be the people in the Philippines.
One thing that I'd like to actually address in this one, Travis and Governor, is that, the emotional aspect of this particular storm. One thing that people have been telling me so many times, that yes, about the homes being destroyed, the businesses being destroyed, about that one. But one thing that really bothers many is the sheer number of dead bodies are actually just lying in the streets in there, and kind of like what to do. People have been calling me and said, well, I've heard that my uncle and my cousin had died over there. I don't know, is it going to be a problem if we ended up, being buried in a mass grave in that one? Is there a special mass that I have that one? We've actually been discussing these matters with some of our Catholic leaders over here on island, and what else we can do to kind of probably pray for the repose of the soul of those dearly beloved ones that we have. And I don't know the answer at this moment in time as to how we can really assist those people.
Yeah, but it is something that you're hearing and that you're working on, and whatever information becomes available to you, you will make it available to everyone else. I think it's difficult to even imagine a tragedy of this magnitude. We hear of 10 or 100 people losing their lives. It's a tragedy, but hearing of a disaster that claims the life of thousands is beyond most people's ability to even comprehend.
Yes, and there are many areas over there that they have not still done accounting for those individuals because roads are still impassable. So they, the numbers could certainly balloons. I mean, numbers such as 10,000 people have been thrown in there, but people predicting that the number could certainly go up. And that's why it's important for us, if we have family members in there in the Philippines and you have not had an opportunity to check and have been frustrated in contacting them. I mean, I really encourage what the governor had said earlier is that, be in contact, Ms. Cheetah Blaze, the American Red Cross for family tracking, family tracing. They'll be able to help you because that's they've been doing this one for a while. And this is one service, by the way, that is free that they can actually assist everybody with.
Roy Adonay is with us from the Filipino community of Guam, talking about various aspects of relief and things that have and haven't been addressed, along with the acting governor of Guam, who was early to stand up the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort. And if you want to contribute, make the check out to just that, the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort. We'll be back with some final thoughts on Good Question right after these.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. You gotta like that.
What's not to like?
Like. I like that. Ooh, I like.
Oh, I definitely like that.
That too. I like that one.
I like it. Like, that's weird.
I like this. Yeah.
There's a whole lot of liking going on. That's right, we're too cool not to like. Like us on Facebook today. What do you like?
I like it.
I liked that yesterday.
Thank you once again for joining us on Good Question tonight. An important reason to watch Good Question, the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort, and make your checks to just that. You get them to the administration, to the government of Guam. They'll get them to the Filipino community of Guam. We've got the acting governor with us. We've got Roy Adonay with us as well from the Filipino community of Guam. Now, one of the entities that was put together specifically to deal with the varying aspects of Typhoon Yolanda is something that I wanted to close out our show with. Acting Governor?
Thank you. We want to thank all the people of Guam. We really do have a hospitable and very loving nature. And we started this, Governor Calvo and I, this Project Guam Cares, which is the effort that we're embarking on to support our Filipino neighbors and our kababayans. And so we would ask all of the community, the government employees, all the agencies, and the people of Guam, but also the business community, to please do the best that they can to support this effort within your own company, whether you have 5 employees or 150. Please circulate some type of donation to assist the Filipinos who have suffered so badly. Project Guam Cares is not just about the government, it's about the entire island. And I think this is an effort to support our fellow man in their most dire time of need. So we please ask your support and let us know if there's anything that you'd like to do, if it's not cash, anything else that would help the Filipinos to recover from this catastrophe.
And for those people who actually who would not be able to go to any government or Guam agencies, the National Office Supply, both in Harmon and Tamuning, are actually accepting donation. Mr. Emilio Oy has been very generous about that one, and he will actually personally write you a check for that one. And all those donations to the Filipino community of Guam is a tax-deductible donation. And I'd just like to say to everybody over here in Guam, on behalf of the Filipinos, the 41% or the many thousands of Filipinos over here in Guam, we can certainly prove to the world, prove to the island, prove to our country that the Bayanihan spirit, the spirit of being together, is very much alive here in Guam.
That's a great message that we're going to close the show out today. And I thank you so much, Acting Governor of Guam, for being with us, Ray Tenorio and Roy Adonay of the Filipino community of Guam. So there are varying avenues where you can contribute to the Typhoon Yolanda relief effort. There are boot drives. There is direct donations to places like National Office Supply. There is the Guam Cares effort, and it makes a lot of sense. Even in private companies, you hear of donations, an initial donation, for example, from the Bank of Guam, directly from the Bank of Guam a couple of days after the event, $10,000, but quietly a hat went around, a collection went around to employees who felt like they initially wants it to give, and most of the companies and most of the businesses and most of the organizations here on Guam are going to want to do the same thing. So anything that we can do to help make that possible, to help make our world a better place and help our fellow man, I think would be a worthwhile endeavor. Thanks so much for listening to tonight's Good Question. My name is Travis Coffman. We'll see you next time.